The voice in your head is not you. Most people believe the negative voice inside their skull is who they really are. It is not. It is a recording built from every insult, every failure, every time someone told you that you weren't enough. That voice formed before you had the power to question it, back when you were a scared kid who didn't know better. Here's the shocking part. Neuroscientists have shown that self-talk is largely automatic, wired from repeated experience, not truth. So when it says you'll fail, it is not predicting your future. It is replaying your past. The tragedy is that millions of people spend their entire lives obeying a script written by their worst moments, never once auditioning for a better role. The moment you separate the voice from yourself, everything changes. You stop negotiating with it. You stop trying to convince it. You simply notice it, the way you'd notice weather, loud, sometimes violent, but not in charge of your direction. This single mental shift is the foundation of every mentally tough person on earth. They didn't get rid of the voice. They just stopped believing it was the boss. This is where real change begins. Not in silence, but in recognizing the enemy has always been a liar wearing your voice like a mask. Comfort is the real enemy, not fear. People think fear is what stops them. It's not. Comfort is the silent killer. Fear at least tells you something is at stake. Comfort tells you nothing is, and that's the lie that destroys potential. Every time you choose the easy option, the couch over the run, the snooze button over the alarm, you are training your brain that mediocrity is safe and growth is optional. Shockingly, studies on habit formation show the brain rewards immediate comfort far more strongly than delayed achievement, which means biology itself is working against your ambition unless you fight back daily. The inner critic thrives inside comfort zones because comfort gives it room to talk. It has nothing to interrupt it. But the second you step into discomfort, a hard workout, a hard conversation, a hard decision, the critic gets drowned out by your own effort. Comfort is where self-doubt is loudest because nothing is happening to challenge it. Discomfort is where self-doubt goes quiet because you're too busy proving it wrong. This is why the most mentally strong individuals chase discomfort on purpose, not because they enjoy pain, but because they understand comfort is where dreams go to die slowly without anyone noticing until it's too late. Discipline silences doubt faster than motivation ever will. Motivation is emotional and temporary. It rises and crashes like a wave. Discipline is mechanical and permanent. It doesn't ask how you feel. This is the key most people miss. You cannot motivate your way out of a negative inner voice because motivation requires you to feel good first. And the critic's entire job is to make sure you never feel good enough to start. Discipline skips that requirement completely. It says, I do this regardless. And that single sentence is devastating to self-doubt. The critic can argue with your feelings all day, but it cannot argue with an action already completed. Every rep finished, every task done despite the noise is proof presented against the voice. Hard evidence it cannot spin. Over time, these small proofs accumulate into something the critic cannot talk over, a track record. Shockingly, this means the antidote to mental weakness isn't a mindset shift at all. It's a physical one. It's showing up on the days you don't want to, especially those days, because those are the only days that count. Waiting to feel ready is exactly what the inner critic wants. Discipline removes the waiting completely, and in doing so, it removes the critic's only weapon, your hesitation. Your past pain can become your power source. Most people bury their worst memories, hoping distance will heal them. But burying pain doesn't remove it. It just gives it a hiding place to whisper from. What if the very thing you're ashamed of, the failure, the humiliation, the moment someone doubted you, is actually raw fuel you've never learned to burn? Every person who has ever built extraordinary mental toughness did it by turning their wound into their reason, not their excuse. The shocking truth is that trauma and hardship, when confronted rather than avoided, rewire the brain toward resilience. This is a documented psychological phenomenon, not just a motivational phrase. The inner critic uses your past as ammunition against you. Remember when you failed, but you can flip that same memory into ammunition for you. Remember when you failed and I'm still here? That's a different sentence with the same facts. The pain doesn't change. Your relationship to it does. This is why the strongest people you'll ever meet are rarely the ones with the easiest stories. They're the ones who took the hardest story and refused to let it write the ending. Your past isn't your cage. It's your fuel tank, and it's still full. Talk to yourself like you're forging a soldier. Most self-help advice says be kind to yourself. That's incomplete. Kindness without honesty breeds excuses. What actually silences the inner critic is not gentle affirmation. It's brutal, disciplined self-accountability. This means confronting yourself in the mirror and naming exactly where you're lying to yourself about effort, about excuses, about what you're really capable of. It's uncomfortable, and that's precisely why it works. The shocking part is that self-compassion research actually supports this. The most resilient people combine self-kindness with radical honesty, not one without the other. You don't build a strong mind by whispering, "It's okay," every time you quit. You build it by saying, "You know you had more," and then proving it the next time. This isn't about self-hatred. It's about refusing to let yourself off the hook the way the world already tries to. When you hold yourself to a standard higher than your critic's insults, the critic loses its job. It was only ever useful because you weren't policing yourself. Once you start, the voice that used to attack you starts sounding weak in comparison to the standard you've set. You out-discipline the doubt until doubt has nothing left to say. The only approval you need is the one you give yourself at the end of the day. People spend their whole lives performing for an audience that isn't watching as closely as they think. The applause you're chasing, the validation, the likes, the praise, none of it silences the inner critic because the critic doesn't care what others think of you. It only cares what you think of you. This is the most shocking realization of all. External validation is a temporary painkiller for an internal wound, and painkillers never heal anything. The only sustainable silence comes from being able to look at your own day and know, without needing anyone to confirm it, that you did what you said you would do. That's it. That's the whole formula. Not perfection, not applause, just alignment between what you promised yourself in the morning and what you delivered by night. When those two things match, the critic has nothing to point to. You already held up your end. When they don't match, no amount of outside praise will quiet it, because deep down you know the truth, even if no one else does. This is why chasing approval from others is a losing game. But approval from the person who watched you do the work, that's the only currency the inner critic can never counterfeit. What if the voice inside your head, the one telling you that you're not enough, that you'll fail, that you should just quit right now? What if that voice has been lying to you since you were a child and you've spent your entire life obeying a liar? Sit with that. Because most people never question it, they just accept it. They wake up, that voice starts talking, and they hand it the keys to their entire day. I'm not here to motivate you. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings don't last past breakfast. I'm here to tell you the truth nobody wants to hear. That voice in your head is not you. It's a recording. It's every insult you ever absorbed, every failure you ever internalized, every person who ever doubted you, looped on repeat, dressed up in your own voice so you'd never question its authority. But here's the shocking part. That voice doesn't get quiet when you feel ready. It gets quiet when you stop asking permission to move. You don't talk your way out of self-doubt. You don't think your way out of it. You work your way out of it. One rep, one hard mile, one task finished when everything in you wanted to quit. Because the critic in your head can argue with your feelings all day long, but it cannot argue with something you already did. Every time you finish what you didn't feel like starting, you're not just building a body or a resume. You're building a case against the voice, evidence, proof, and eventually you build so much proof that the voice runs out of things to say. Understand something, comfort is not your friend. Comfort is where that voice gets loud because nothing is happening to shut it up. The second you step into something hard, a workout that breaks you, a conversation you've been avoiding, a decision you've been scared to make, the noise drowns in the effort. Discomfort isn't your punishment, it's your silence. And your past, that thing you're ashamed of, that failure you keep hidden, that's not your cage. That's fuel. You don't need a clean story to be powerful. You need a true one. The ones who become unstoppable aren't the ones with the easy road. They're the ones who took the worst chapter of their life and used it as the reason instead of the excuse. Stop asking the world to approve of you. The world isn't watching as closely as you think. The only approval that matters is the one you give yourself at the end of the day. When you look back and know, not hope, know that you did what you said you'd do. That's the whole game. Not perfection, alignment, promise made, promise kept. So here's what you do. Tomorrow morning, before that voice even wakes up, you move first. You don't wait to feel ready, because ready is a lie the critic sells you to keep you standing still. You callous your mind the same way you'd callous your hands, through repeated, uncomfortable, unglamorous work that nobody claps for. And one day, maybe not this week, maybe not this month, you'll notice the voice is still there, but it's quiet now. Not because you defeated it in an argument, because you outworked it into irrelevance. That voice was never the monster. Your silence in the face of it was. Your inner critic was built by your past, but it does not have to author your future. It doesn't need to be destroyed. It needs to be outworked, outdisciplined, and outproven, one uncomfortable action at a time. The version of you that stops negotiating with doubt and simply moves anyway is the version that finally goes quiet on the inside. Not because life got easier, because you got harder to shake. Stop performing for applause that isn't guaranteed and start collecting proof only you can see. That proof, stacked day after day, is the only thing that has ever truly silenced anyone's inner critic, and it's the only thing that ever will. What if I told you the voice in your head telling you to quit right now, the one making excuses for you before you've even tried, isn't even yours? What if it's just an old recording, built from every failure, every insult, every doubt someone else planted in you before you were old enough to fight back? And what if the reason it's still running your life is because you've never once questioned whether it's telling the truth? Today, that ends, because I'm not going to motivate you. Motivation fades by tomorrow morning. I'm going to show you how the toughest minds on this planet took that same lying voice, stripped it of its power, and made it go completely silent. Not through affirmations, not through hope, but through discipline so consistent, the voice simply ran out of things to say. If you've ever felt like your own mind is your biggest enemy, stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to know exactly how to shut it down for good.